Hello everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I would like to talk to you about artificial intelligence, or AI as it's often known as now. I mean, I suppose that's what it is. That's what AI stands for, artificial intelligence. Anyway, it's been something that for the past few years has slowly crept its way into the mainstream, from becoming this kind of sci-fi kind of concept. In the future, at some point, AI will take over, to we're now in the point where AI is in the process of taking over. You can only look at the writers' strikes from last year to get an idea of what was going on within Hollywood regarding its response to AI and the fundamental rejection of AI by the writers of Hollywood, and fairly rightly so in my opinion. In 2021, I and a good friend of mine who's going to be part of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, we made a film called Connie Lynn, and it was made with a proto version of ChatGPT. So at the time it was just called GPT-3, and this was way before ChatGPT and way before the current idea of people using AI being associated with sort of right-wing, crypto bro kind of grifter types. You know, now there's that association with that type of person and that type of content. AI is seen as this utter slop that is just slapped together. You know, you've got people that make entire channels just with AI voices, with AI scripts, about stuff that the person creating the video has absolutely no interest in and no passion for whatsoever. They're just chasing trends and just chasing whatever they think will get them some views. And when me and my friend Lee, we made Connie Lynn, there wasn't any of that going on with AI. And when we were making Connie Lynn, AI was kind of a fun, novel sort of thing, and the idea of making a feature film, a live-action feature film using AI, was something that was kind of novel, and we wanted to really do something with that. And whenever we would pitch the idea to people, like we go to film festivals and stuff, and we would pitch the idea to people, we would always get like, oh wow, that sounds really interesting, oh my god, that sounds so interesting. And I'm sure that if we were to pitch that idea now, a film made entirely with AI, you get an awful lot of, oh yeah, okay, I need to go talk to him over there. I'll be, yeah, and they try and duck out the conversation, and fairly so in my opinion, because my opinion on AI has changed an awful lot since 2021. At the time, I was very much of the opinion that AI was going to be this semi-good thing. It was obviously going to be, I had this feeling that it was going to be bad for humanity in the long run, but in the short term it could at least be good for small-time creators and that kind of thing, to help them establish their vision in ways that they wouldn't have been able to do before. It was a new tool alongside, you know, the digital camera or you know, non-linear editors, for instance. These were things that democratized the filmmaking process and allowed people to make films that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to make. You know, you saw a huge rise in films throughout the 90s that made use of, you know, really small budgets. You got stuff like Clerks, you got stuff like The Following, you've got stuff like, I've forgotten the name of it. What's the guy who was in Spy Kids? He did the film where the guy's running around for $7,000. Probably, I don't know, no, they've got pesos in Mexico, haven't they? But it was the equivalent of $7,000 at the time. And now, you wouldn't need even $7,000 to make a film like that. You could make a film like that for maybe $500 or $1,000 now. And I think that something really good about that was that it simply made the process of making stuff, your own content, easier. However, with AI, I think my overly good nature maybe got in the way of my foresight, because very quickly after that film came out, and with the advent of ChatGPT and quite convincing AI voices, I mean, convincing in the sense that if you were just like blindly listening, not really paying attention, You know, you could vaguely, oh yeah, that's AI, yeah, you know, that kind of thing. It wouldn't be an immediate kind of thing compared to like the Microsoft text-to-speech of 10 years ago. And I do worry about AI quite a lot, and I was worried about AI at the time, and it felt like people weren't treating the threat of AI seriously. For instance, now one of the biggest complaints about AI and surrounding AI is the copyright infringement. Since a lot of these AI models are based off of feeding as much media and you know, websites and films and music and so on into it so that it can learn and understand from a wide variety of sources so that it can then regurgitate things in different contexts. I mean, you've seen stuff like DALL-E 2 and DALL-E 3, which infamously had Stutter Shock logos, you know, half baked into some of their images because they were just taking copyrighted images with the watermark still on them and just regurgitating them. And I still don't think that that's the biggest problem with AI. I think the biggest problem with AI is humanity's short-sighted nature. We're a species that don't tend to look beyond the next 10, 20 years. You know, the idea of the year 2050 is this long distant thing. The same way that the year 2025 was long distant to people coming into the millennium. And now the year 2025 is coming in a couple months, and the future is now. And 2000 at one point was the future compared to people in like 1980. And now 1984 was originally a science fiction dystopia, and now it's set 40 years in the past. So you've got this continual passage of time that is just going to march on no matter what. And we need to really adjust our thinking to the long term, because the advent of AI has fundamentally changed the nature of creativity permanently, and it's never going to go back to the way it was. And we need to really figure out our shit now, right now, because if we don't, we're going to end up losing a lot of the heart and soul that goes into a lot of media. For instance, have any of you ever been emotionally moved by a piece of AI-driven content? I imagine not. I imagine you haven't. And I imagine that when you've seen things that are AI-generated, you feel, similarly to me, this kind of empty feeling, like you're not watching something real, almost like you're watching an advert for Sainsbury's or something like that, where it's not this thing that's designed to make you feel. It's designed to keep your eyeballs glued. You've got an awful lot of channels now which are just AI pumping videos out, you know, 5-6 times a day. And I know I make 2 or 3 videos a day, but at least it's me. You know, this is all me. The camera is here. I'm out in the park. You know, this is a real thing. I mean, look. That's a real microphone. This is a real face. There's a real stuff that's going on, as far as you know. And I think that 10 years from now, a video like this might not be even possible, because you could make it and people will immediately suspect. And that suspicion is what's going to drive so much negativity going forwards. We're going to see an awful lot of true artistic ventures dismissed utterly because people assume that they're made by an artificial intelligence, that it wasn't a real human creating things. And it's a bit sad, because AI does have some legitimate good uses and things that I think can be really fun. Like there's this video thing, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a music video from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard for the song Iron Lung. And it's a really fun music video because it's the AI going completely balls to the wall and just doing whatever the hell it feels like. And it was guided by a human quite in depth. And you can kind of tell that it was very specifically crafted. It wasn't just like they let the thing run for 9 minutes. It was really deliberately put together. And stuff like that is going to get overtaken by things that are just corporately driven or profit driven. Maybe not by corporations, but by you know, people that are just trying to make a living off of content rather than true expressions of themselves through any kind of artistic vision. And I don't think that we're going to see an improvement in this regard. I don't think that we're going to see AI becoming this thing where it becomes more artistic, we're going to start seeing more slop. We're going to start seeing more things that get put into our eyeballs where we're having to judge. Is that AI? And we're going to have to be thinking that all the time in the future. Is that AI? Is that not AI? Is that, well, what's that? Is that something that's going to be, yeah, that doesn't feel real. And you know, it might become a case where someone who doesn't have the greatest artistic vision, where their film or their song or their book might be a bit all over the place. It might feel a bit generic. They might have been drawing from, you know, your basic kind of contemporaries, rather than trying to do something truly unique. And that is totally fine to do. However, going forwards, we're going to start seeing a suspicion that these people are using AI, and I think there's going to be an immediate dismissal, a rightly so dismissal. However, it is going to cause a lot of problems for small creators, and I thought it wasn't going to cause problems for small creators. I thought it was going to be similar to the advent of the internet and streaming platforms like YouTube and Amazon Prime, where they were able to democratize the filmmaking process. And they really did. I mean, if you look at the sort of films that I've been making, I couldn't have made these films 30 years ago, not just because I wasn't born 30 years ago, but if I was this age 30 years ago, I couldn't go out and make a film like Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. I couldn't just grab a camera and make something that feels semi-professional, with audio that sounds this clear, that with you know, visuals that look HD. I mean, HD didn't even really exist back then. So you didn't have the ease of access to creativity like you do now. I mean, if you wanted to make music, you would have gotten your 4-track tape recorder, and you would have put together some demos, and then you would have taken those demos to a studio, and you would have worked on them, and you'd have refined them. And it felt like it was something of a privilege to be creating in that regard, for some, in a way that other people could actually see it, and not just something to show to your friends, and people would go, oh yeah, oh, well done, yeah, great, that's really nice. They could sound more genuine than that, by the way. I'm not trying to say that no one cared. But with AI going forwards, it's going to, if anything, democratize film so much, it's going to make things so easy to create that there's not really going to be a point in creating. Where does the artistic license end for humanity? When does our ability to tell interesting and unique stories get overtaken by a machine that doesn't really feel and think and have experiences the way that humans do? And who's to say that that is a terrible thing? What happens if films get better as a result of AI? What happens if in 40 years we get one of the greatest films that's ever been made, time and time and time again, and better than, you know, Citizen Kane, better than Casablanca, better than all the classics, and it was all made by a computer? Some people would argue, fairly so, that a film created without the human element is inherently non-artistic. I disagree with the idea that art is inherently human. I think that it doesn't need to capture the human experience in order to be evocative towards humanity. I think the idea that art is a uniquely human expression is a bit short-sighted, not just because of AI coming in the future, when it might start to be able to create serious expressions of art, but let's take a hypothetical, right? Let's say, for the sake of argument, the aliens come down to Earth, and they're fairly friendly, and they're all very, very creative, and they make films, they make music, they make types of art that we can't even conceptualize, but they sit down, they show it to us, and our minds are just blown. Wow, what an incredible piece of art that was. I can't believe I got to see that. My life has felt irreversibly changed as a result of watching this thing. The same way it might, the inspiration that you might take from watching your favorite ever film for the first time, or you know, listening to an album that completely changed your life. It might be like that, but times 1,000, because we don't have any point of comparison yet. And the only point of comparison we have now, and it's a very recent point of comparison, is AI and the things that AI can make, which tend to be of not brilliant quality. I'm not out here to try and say that our film Connie Lynn is any kind of artistic masterpiece. It was more of an experiment into the idea of using new technology and to see what could be done in the future. It was very much a prototype, and if anything, I feel like it could be be a part of history in a bit of a self-indulgent sort of way. It will be a part of history that Connie Lin is one of, if not the first, live-action AI-driven piece of art. There were other things that were AI-driven beforehand, but it was kind of terrible on purpose, and it was the kind of thing you would see a video essayist on YouTube kind of go, "Ooh, wow, this film was made entirely with AI. Look at how bad it was. Look at how bad the mouth movements are. Oh, it's not even synced with the audio, and the audio sounds totally fake as well." You're going to end up seeing AI improve exponentially. Look at Siri 10 years ago, and then compare it to ChatGPT now. Because when people like to say that AI is terrible and it's unconvincing, and you might see a bit of AI struggle to conceptualize something quite basic, and you kind of jeer at it and go, "Ha ha, look, you know, I don't think I'm worried about AI taking over anytime soon." I think that's a bit short-sighted, because we were making the same jokes about Siri not being able to understand basic English 10 years ago, and now look at what ChatGPT can do compared to Siri. It's like the Super Nintendo compared to the PlayStation 4 in terms of the sheer amount of evolution that has happened, because it is exponential what's going on here, and it's only going to get faster, it's only going to get better, and the technology is only going to improve. ChatGPT 4 is so much better than ChatGPT 3, and when ChatGPT first was able to do maths, my mind was like, "Oh, fuck, okay, it can do maths now." I do use ChatGPT, however, I make a specific point to never ever allow it to take any kind of place in the artistic process outside of it being a voice to feed ideas to. And so it can give feedback on my ideas. So if I write a song and I write the lyrics for it, and I sort of think, "Ooh, these lyrics feel a bit pretentious," I'll copy paste the lyrics into ChatGPT and I'll be like, "These lyrics feel a bit pretentious to me. Can you do an in-depth critique of everything and analyze the themes alongside the greater context of the album that I've also told you about?" Because it now has a memory, it can remember certain things that you've talked to it about before. And it will come out with something pretty interesting. It will give me the sort of ideas that, like, okay, that line doesn't really work. Yeah, I get, but it's not that it tells me that's bad, so I go, okay, that's bad. It's that it goes, that is bad, and I kind of go, yeah, I kind of see what you mean. Yeah, I do kind of see what you mean. However, your idea for it, I'm not going to use. And if I am going to use it, I'm going to completely change the way that it works, because the AI can't actually conceptualize my artistic vision. All it can do is put one word after the other, because it's a language-based, it's a language model, ChatGPT is. It's a language model where the whole point of it is it just puts one word after the other in a way that it thinks is coherent. It has no ideas truly of human conversation and structure towards a sentence or a paragraph. It has basic ideas of grammar and stuff like that, and it can string words and sentences together in a way that feels convincing. However, it will tell you utter bullshit with the most sincerest of hearts, and then you'll point out the blatant flaws, and it will go, "Oh yes, my bad, my apologies. Yeah, no, you're actually completely right. Yeah, it is like this," and then it will just start putting in what you said was the actual correct answer. Like if you put into ChatGPT, say, I haven't tested this, but if you put in, this film is really good because the characters are really well developed. It will go, yes, the characters are really well developed, and then it will go, this character has this quality that means it's well developed, and this character has this quality that means it's well developed, and this character does this which changes across the course of the film, which makes it quite developed. And you'll go, hang on, that character didn't change. What are you talking about? That character was introduced at the end of the film. And it'll go, oh yes, you're completely right, my apologies. Actually, it's like this, the way that you said it. And then you can just make up something completely different, and it will just go along with it. And that's what it does. It's not something that's completely advanced now. However, that's not to say that it won't advance. I see AI less like a tool, less like the advent of the internet, and less like the advent of smartphones or YouTube or digital cameras. And I see it more like nuclear weapons. I feel like as nuclear weapons came out, they weren't something that could completely end the world. Like, if we had 1,000 Hiroshimas and Nagasaki's, it would be a devastating travesty, obviously. However, it wouldn't have caused the nuclear winters and the absolute apocalypse that came with the advent of the hydrogen bomb and stuff like Tsar Bomba and other massive atomic bombs like that have yields of like billions of tons of TNT in a single missile. AI, as it gets better and more intelligent, is going to be able to be used for evil. And at the moment it's being used by quite scuzzy grifters to try and make themselves a quick bit of cash. There's a certain point in time when it's going to start being used by terrorists. The classic example, I don't know much about this, I've read it before, is that you can make diseases, you can code a disease, and you could get not ChatGPT, but you could get an artificial intelligence model to create a artificial disease that you could then put together in a laboratory and then spread out to the world. And you could put in all the worst genetic sort of things to make sure that it spreads as fast as possible and does as much damage in the way that maybe it doesn't cause damage straight away, but it allows it to spread first. It would be like, if you ever play Plague Inc., imagine you had like unlimited points in Plague Inc. That's what AI is going to be able to do potentially. And I really hope that it doesn't come to that. I hope that, I hope that regulation comes like very, very, very soon, but part of me feels like it might already be too late. I don't like AI, I despise it. However, that's not to say that the few positives that it can have should be completely neglected. I feel like ChatGPT can be quite useful. I like to sometimes put old journal entries in it and ask it about what my thought process might have been at the time, or like, do you think that I did the right thing in this situation? Or I might put a script into it and go like, what do you think about these characters and going into this circumstance? Or I might put a song into it and go, you know, what do you think of this? Or I might get it to generate a piece of imagery just as an idea, as a blueprint that I can then develop the idea on my own and then do my idea properly. So I can give it the prompt, you know, I want it to make a album cover of a butterfly in a museum exhibit surrounded by people dressed in 1950s, 60s kind of outfits, you know, kind of an Americana style thing. And it will pump that out. And obviously I would feel very immoral actually using that piece of artwork, although I wouldn't use artwork in quotes. I would say it does technically count as art. However, I don't think that this art is intrinsically moral. I think it's intrinsically immoral, but not necessarily because of the copyright infringement, although that is certainly a part of it, but that's a minor part to me. The major part of me is that as the AI develops, we are creating an existential threat for humanity. And I feel like we're not taking that seriously because, as I said earlier, humanity is an extremely short-sighted species. We don't look far into the future. We're not thinking about the year 2050 as anything other than a figment of our imaginations where we'll have fixed everything by then. You know, let alone the year 2100. I might be alive in the year 2100. I might not be. If I live to the age of 102, I might be alive. However, that just seems so far in the future to me. And, you know, 1950 is further away than the year 2100. Yeah, it is. No, it's slightly, it's about that, okay? And 1950 doesn't feel like a totally different time. It feels certainly like a different time. It certainly feels like it's a bit alien to me. And I'm sure if I was suddenly plonked into this exact spot in 1950, I would be quite confused, and I would probably commit a fair few social faux pas. I would speak weird, and people would point that out. And you know, my moral system that I use in the 21st century wouldn't be applicable in the 1950s. The same way that my moral system in the 2020s won't apply to someone living in the 2110s, for instance. However, the 2110s isn't that far away. It's not that far. It's obviously not the immediate future. However, just because it's not going to happen within the next election cycle or whatever doesn't mean it's never going to happen, and it's just something that shouldn't be worth thinking about. It's something that annoys me with the discourse around climate change, and particularly the continual reliance on oil. Not that I'm supporting groups like Just Stop Oil. I'm going to stay neutral on that. But oil is predicted to run out in the year 2050, right? What are we going to do then? Because 2060 isn't that far away. It's 36 years away. Someone that's born now will only be 36 years old, and we don't think of someone being 36 years old as being like an old person. We see them as being a fairly youngish person. Not like, you know, an absolute young'un, but certainly someone that hasn't yet reached middle age, someone that isn't particularly old. And we're going to reach a point in the future where we're going to be faced with these existential threats, and we should deal with them now rather than sit on them and procrastinate and allow them to unravel and overtake our humanity and our art. So I think that's going to be everything. If you want to check out Connie Lynn, it's going to be in the description. It's on Amazon Prime. I think you've got to buy it. So sorry about that. But it's not going towards AI, and we're not using AI anymore. It's not a part of my workflow in terms of actually using it for any artistic vision the way that I was using it for that. Because with that, I fed the script into it, we got it to make a new script, and then we put the film out. We filmed the film according to the AI, and we let the AI be the guide in voice, because at the time that was a novel thing, and it's not a novel thing anymore. It's not cool and hip and new. Now it's quite scary, you know. It'd be like us making a pro-smoking film in 1960. It's still just about, but if we'd made that in 1975, people would sort of go, oh, it's a bit odd making a pro-smoking film. It's a strange analogy, I know, but whatever. If you want to check it out, then please do. Your support means the world to me and to all of my fellow collaborators and my friends, and what I would consider my family in a way. And going forwards, my approach to AI is this. I use it merely as like a personal assistant, and I think if it starts to get, and when it inevitably starts to get worse, I think I'm going to become more Luddite with my approach regarding AI technology. And I'm going to become more unnerved by it, because I'm already pretty unnerved. In fact, I actually made a video on this exact topic about 5 years ago, before the advent of ChatGPT, and even when GPT-3 and the idea of OpenAI was barely even a thing. I actually came up with this idea about 10 years ago, when AI was Siri and what's the Windows thing? I don't even know. Cortana, that's it. You know, when those were the cutting edge, I realized that going forwards, the AI is going to get better exponentially, and as it does, it's going to overtake human creativity at some point. And all we can do is we can continue to support each other as fellow humans. And there's going to become a point when something being made by humans is going to be almost a selling point. It's going to be, oh wow, this film feels very true to life and very human. And the phrase, it's a very human feeling film. I've been using the phrase naturalistic for, and humanistic for my film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, which to me at the present means it feels like a real conversation between humans, the way that I have them in real life, the way that I talk with my friends and my family and my fellow peers. However, I feel like in 40 years, the term humanistic film will just mean a film that is made by humans. And that unnerves me. However, we can't sit in the dark and act like the future isn't going to happen, because it is. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't have the answers. All I can do is try and raise awareness for this cause that, you know, there's already quite a lot of awareness around it already. However, I wanted to add to the discourse, essentially. I don't have anything particularly fresh or new to add to it, but I just wanted to add to it in my own way. and give you some of my experiences, because AI can be quite useful. It can help democratize film. However, I think that we're playing with fire. I really, really do. And if you do see a film that is using AI for some interesting artistic purpose, then do check it out, do recommend it to us in the comments, and let's get some discourse going around the topic of AI, because I don't quite know what to make of it, and I feel like I've gone around the same few ideas now for what feels like a long time. So I'm gonna call it quits for here. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Joshua Morrison. Watch Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence when it comes out, made completely by humans. There's a lot of people walking back and forth, but I feel like that kind of adds to it. I love this this little thing. You can do a bit of this. It's sweet, isn't it? It's brilliant, isn't it? I like coming here sometimes and sitting and watching the sunset. Sunset sets in that direction. Sets over there. Here's a shot of it actually. It's cool, isn't it? Da-da-down, da-da-down, out. Ooh, my arse is wet. This is a video that I haven't planned whatsoever. I've been wandering around up and down these streets for about half an hour looking for somewhere interesting to film. Somewhere where there's not too much foot traffic and where you can kind of get a bit of an interesting sort of idea of where this place is. And this has been the best I can kind of find. And I'm talking a little bit quieter because it is a residential area, you know, and I don't really want to disturb people particularly, so this is probably going to be a shorter video than usual. The idea essentially of making up as you go along is very simply that if you put all your effort into planning things, those plans aren't necessarily going to actually come to fruition, especially in the way that you actually envisioned them when you came up with a plan. For instance, every single piece of art that I've ever made, every single film I've done, every single song that I've composed, everything has always gone awry in some form or another. Either the actor I wanted didn't really work out, or the location didn't work out, or this aspect of the script was too complicated, or this sort of thing that I was trying to do didn't really work. Because right now, pain in the ass. You know, shut down Heathrow. Who needs to travel anyway, just so that people can get these sort of videos recorded. In terms of making things up as you go along, I do understand the idea that people don't necessarily want to see something that is just, you know, people have no idea what they're doing. So, you know, there can't be any thought or care or effort put into something where you're just making up as you go along. But I tend to find that the magic comes from the unexpected. Whenever I've gone out, my favorite shot whenever I've gone out has always been the one that I didn't really think was all that. When I was looking at it on the little tiny screen that's probably about that big on the camera, and then I go and see it on the computer monitor and it's, you know, maybe that big, a bit smaller than that. I think, oh wow, that shot's really good. And the shot that I spent, you know, an hour tweaking and twiddling and making sure that everything was absolutely perfect, that one tends to not be the one that's you know, my favorite. The one that I thought was going to be the money shot tends to be the one that is, you know, it's all right, don't get me wrong. It's not like planning is a bad thing and that you shouldn't put any effort in to what you do. You absolutely should. However, I think effort should come from the overall experience rather than an individual part of the process that you put all your time and effort into. If you plan too much, and I've said this before, you can get paralyzed in the plan and it can lead to you creating these really sterile works. And if you just allow yourself to go with the flow, you're going to end up in having much more fun in life than if you sit down and think, oh, I need to do this, and then 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 this. You're going to end up, one, overwhelming yourself through this feeling of routine that you've created for yourself and this feeling of obligation to do certain things in a certain order because that's the way that they are done. You're going to end up paralyzing yourself because of that. And second off, you're going to just realize that what's the point of life if there's no spontaneity? What's the point of life if you can't just decide at the last minute you're going to go out and you end up having... Have you ever gone out and thought this... You've been really excited for this night out, you've been excited for it for like 2 weeks or so, right? And then it happens and you're a little bit disappointed And it's not necessarily just because your expectations were raised, because you kind of knew your expectations were raised going into it, because you're self-conscious enough to understand that, and you're self-aware enough to be able to get to grasp with that concept. However, you still leave disappointed, and it is not just because you put the expectations into it, but it's also because you've had this idea that it's kind of, you know, you've prepared to do it and then you've done it. Where's the magic in that? Compared to if you, oh, see, part of the plan, going wrong, car. I'm gonna have to move the camera somewhere. What I'll do, move it to the pavement. I'll just do it on the pavement. You all right? Huh. See the car. Let me just try and find a spot. We'll do it here-ish. Ooh, that looks nice. Make sure it's all in focus. Yeah, brilliant. Let's raise it up a bit. ISO can go up a couple of notches as well. One more. Yeah, whatever. That's probably gonna have to do. Let's just make sure that, okay, so I go to that tree and yeah, I should definitely fit in that frame. I'm gonna keep all that in because that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, spontaneity. You end up coming up with a new shot. I mean, I quite like this shot now, and I've literally just composed it at the last second. I kind of like this going up and down. I like all this. You know, I kind of liked being able to wander back and forth on the street, but I was there with the worry that a car would come by. And it's kind of indicative of my point that if you go through life doing everything according to a plan, then you're not going to have any magic to your own life. I find that some of my favorite nights out, or my favorite days, or my favorite experiences are the ones that I just do off the cusp, where I just decide, I'm gonna do that, and then I do it. And then I come back and I'm glad to have done it. I never feel like I shouldn't have bothered to do something, you know? Even stuff that has caused me significant grief in my life, I feel like I'm still glad I went out and tried it, you know? Because what's the point of life if you don't go out and have these experiences? What's the point of life if you just do the same thing time and time again? You all right? It's another car, so I'm just trying to think of more aspects to making it up as you go along that are really important. I think probably the most important thing is knowing how to do things. You know, it's all well and good going into stuff with, you know, complete guns a-blazing, you know, and having this possibly quite naive mindset of, you know, I'm just going to do it and then it's going to work. You know, it might not work. Things might not work out, and that's all right, because if they don't work out, then that's fine, and it's a lesson learned. So I think even if this video is a failure, it's still a lesson in failure. And it's better to, like, for instance, when I was learning to write, scripts and stuff. I'm gonna move the camera again.
Yeah, I'll give you cash. Oh, you're gonna give cash? Because I've got a problem with my account, you know. I changed the license, I can't log in.
That could be cool. Where am I gonna go? Yeah, up to about here. More lessons in failure. Like when I was learning to write, I feel like I'm like the Homer Simpson thing with the hedge, you know, where he goes into the hedge. I think what's important, when I was learning to write scripts, I didn't learn by reading all the best screenplays. I learned by reading the kind of the worst ones. And you kind of learn things through that. I'm just filming a little video where I'm trying to do 2 videos a day where I just talk about various topics. This one is all about making it up as you go along. So it's all been, you know, the fact that, you know, you have kind of come in, have kind of actually added to the general point of just going out there and just trying things, whether they work or they don't.
All right, yeah.
All right. Cheers. You have a good night, yeah?
Good luck.
Thank you so much. So yeah, see, another perfect example. Things always work out in the end, and you can always, I feel like I'm not actually in the frame. So you can always just go out there and try stuff, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think I've kind of made that point fairly clear by now in a very repetitive sort of way. And what I want to add on to that is when you are going out and doing these things, experience is everything. The more experience you get trying new things and trying things that are outside your comfort zone and just going in guns a-blazing, you're going to fall flat on your face so many times, but you're going to get up, you're going to try it again, you're going to get shot in the kneecap or whatever, and you're going to fall down again, and then you're going to get back up again, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I'm king of the world, and then you're going to fall down again, you'll be humbled, and you'll be unhumbled and humbled again. And as life continues, you're going to come across all sorts of negative experiences that will cause positivity in the long run. You know, like, I recently made an album about my divorce, right? And I'm not going to go into it, but it was a negative thing that happened. I think anyone would say getting divorced is a fairly negative thing, right? Unless you're in an abusive marriage, I guess. But with coming out of it, with the experience, has been far more valuable than, say, just living life in a sedentary way, is what I'm trying to get at. And so I'd like to wrap this video up, because it's not a big point that I'm trying to make. My general point is just go out there and try it. And who cares if it doesn't work, because you can always try again. Thank you so much for watching this one. Been a bit of a shorter one, I know, but it's been fun anyway. It's been a bit of a weird one. I know this one will probably be the one that might get people to unsubscribe, but people might come along and just sort of be along for the ride. And thank you for joining me on this ride. Bye. Bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit anecdotes and how life is a collection of anecdotes. So much so that I know that's going to be the title of the video. Life is a collection of anecdotes. Now, what do I mean by that? So first off, what is an anecdote? Kind of basic, obvious thing, but an anecdote is a story that you can kind of tell to another person. You know, you're hanging out and you're like, oh, this one time I met up with this guy and then we went down and did this, and like this crazy thing happened, and it was like, and not always, but a standard, you know, basic kind of goal of an anecdote is to tell an interesting, entertaining story for the purposes of maybe comic effect or dramatic effect. You know, you might be looking for a response of like, that was that was a funny story. Yeah, you're a funny guy, man. Or you might be looking for like a bloody hell, Jesus, fuck me. And that happened to you. Those are kind of the two polar opposites of the spectrum, and you don't really want to be caught in the middle where someone's response is kind of this ambivalent, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because that shows that your anecdote isn't particularly interesting. And now we all have millions and millions of anecdotes that are incredibly boring. For instance, today I had an anecdote where I left the house to do some filming, and I went to a coffee shop first because I was gonna sit in a coffee shop and just like, you know, relax for a bit. Because I had on my loyalty card, you know, you can get that card and they stamp it, and after you get 7 coffees, you get the 8th one free, that kind of thing. So I had a free coffee, so I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to having it. So I went to the coffee shop, and it said open on the front sign. And then I opened the door, and then the guy inside was sort of sweeping around. I was like, is it still open? He goes, no. And just goes straight back to sweeping. I went, all right. You know, you open, the sign says open. He didn't respond, and then I just sort of shut the door, walked off, kind of thought, what the hell was that about? Bit weird, isn't it? See how not interesting a story that was? I'm going to see the audience retention went down slightly at that part because it wasn't an interesting story. But I think that is a good example of what we all have. We all have dozens and dozens and hundreds of stories that we could tell exactly like that. So much so that we've forgotten. I couldn't tell you a story like that from about 4 years ago because I've forgotten it because it's not particularly interesting. And exactly the same with you. So you want to collect these interesting anecdotes. You want to collect anecdotes that are fun and novel and not even necessarily unique, but at least unique to you. And that when you tell them, it feels like, you know, you're telling a personal story. And this isn't about being someone that can tell really good anecdotes. This isn't a charisma sort of video about like, you know, you need to gain confidence and that kind of thing. This is more a video about going out there in life and just going with the flow and seeing what happens, because that's how anecdotes are born. That's how stories get told, because the way that a story is told is first the story needs to happen, right? If it's based on a real thing, it can be fiction, but we're talking about real life stories. So first you have to experience the thing. Then you need to process it, and you need to figure out like the individual parts. Like, you ever gotten with a girl and like you really like her, right? You like her so much, and then you tell the story to someone, and you spend like 30 minutes telling this one story about like this really basic thing. You spent 30 minutes talking about how you met, and it was just at a cheese shop, and you both like Montague Jack. You managed to stretch that out for 30 minutes. I think I stole that joke from the IT crowd. But anyway, you try and pass the interesting information, and then you put that information forward as part of an anecdote, and that's the process of creating an anecdote. First you need to experience the event, then you need to pass the information, figure out what's interesting, what's not, what makes for the best version of the story. Not necessarily making things up, but just like, what pace at this story. Say the story is you and your friend went down to the shop, and along the way you met quite an eccentric character, right? And this character suddenly said, "Oh yeah, come with me," and he takes you to a pub, and then he buys you both a drink, and he sits you down, and he talks to you about his business plan, right? Now that's quite an interesting story, but imagine you spent the time when you're telling that anecdote talking all about the business plan itself, which wasn't particularly interesting. What was interesting here was meeting this random guy and him taking you two random strangers to the pub and getting them a drink, and then talking them through the business plan. The interesting part wasn't what you and your friend happened to be talking about, or what you both bought from the shop that you just came out of. That's not the interesting part of the anecdote. The interesting part of the anecdote, and is going to vary for various anecdotes. It's not going to be the same every single time. And so you need to figure out how you're going to pass this information, and then how you're going to pass this information on. See, I use both two different versions of the word pass. So one's P-A-R-S-E and one's P-A-S-S, right? So that's how you make an anecdote. But how do you find these anecdotes in the world? Well, the way you do that, at least the way I do it, is just say yes to stuff. Weird situations come up, let them happen, because you can find a lot of fun in these weird situations. You can have a lot of fun with the unexpected. Like this. Keeps rising to the top. So you can find an awful lot of fun in the unexpected, and going with the flow of things can take you down some really strange and quirky avenues. Now obviously use your common sense, don't follow a stranger down a dark alley, you don't want that kind of anecdote. But if a friend invites you out, say yes. If an opportunity comes your way, take it. Why not? See what happens. Even if you don't think it's going to be that great, it might turn out to be better than you thought. And that's kind of the key. You want to go with the flow of things. And what way I've always worked is I just kind of go with the flow of things. I just say yes to stuff and see where the world takes me. I don't plan things out. I just sort of let things happen. And that tends to lead to quite an interesting sort of life, at least in my opinion. I feel like I do all right for myself, at least in the anecdote department. And as you continue through life and you make your way from adulthood to old age, you are collecting these anecdotes, and your library of past experiences will grow. And as it grows, you will be able to flick through the books. And if you meet an old friend and you start telling stories and you reminisce, you suddenly start telling stories that you don't even remember, right? That you hadn't remembered for years and years and years. But just this being with this person has unlocked those memories for you. You go through your archive of your life, of your own experiences, and you think back to yourself maybe 10 years ago. And what were you doing 10 years ago? For me, 10 years ago, I was doing my GCSEs. I got my 5 Cs, got my C in English, C in maths, got a B in RE for some reason, which I don't quite understand. Anyway, that's what I was doing 10 years ago. So if I try and think about it, I remember I met up with a guy who we'll call Brian for the sake of this. we used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot at school, and I had an ancient gear deck, and I never lost a single game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In my life at that school. I lost games outside of school, but at school I never lost a single game, and I probably played like 30 games. And that, not because I'm such a skilled player, I was all right, but you know, I did all right for myself. I wasn't great, but because the ancient gear deck was so overpowered, and I think I really did a good job on crafting my deck. I never changed my deck up because this deck worked perfectly for me. It had a little combination of cyber dragons and gadgets, and you don't really give a shit about this. But anyway, I met up with
Brian.
Put Brian under that. I accidentally said his real name. Just put like a text-to-speech Brian, yeah? Anyway, we went to his house and we played like some D&D and we played some, you know, stuff like that. And we had a great time playing D&D. And I remember I said, because I was getting a bit sick of this one boss battle, I just said, right, I do a mega flip over this monster and I stab him right in the middle of the fucking eye. It kills him in one go. I said that to the dungeon master, and there was a sister, and she kind of went, right, well that's probably going to be a 1 in 20. She rolled it, probably not expecting me to actually get it. And yeah, I messed up her whole boss battle because I landed on that thing, did the flip, stabbed the mother, and we went on our way. Oh, I remember now, we were going down like all these mad like fucking coves. There was this like Escape the Prison DLC. I think we were in like with a load of goblins and stuff. Like I think it was a goblin prison and we were stuck in the prison. And I remember it feeling a bit like a school as well. Anyway, this isn't about me trying to reminisce and trying to give my experiences. This is about how if you flick through your past, you will remember stuff if you try and think about it actively. And if you try and remember these things, then it will lead to more avenues. And, you know, as you go through life, you've got a wide experience of experiences behind you. And what's before you is a glorious future, a blank canvas for you to paint over, right? And a series of events that all you need to do is say yes. Or you just need to call someone up and say, hey man, do you want to meet up? Or, hey, should we go on holiday? No. All right. Call another guy. Hey, do you want to go on holiday? No. Hey, do you want to go on holiday? We went on holiday before. Oh, okay. Not really sure what the point of that. But anyway, the point of it is to be proactive a little bit as well. Like, say yes to stuff, go out there, get stuff done, just do stuff, be active. And the more you're active, the more experiences you'll have. The more experiences you have, the more happy you'll be. I'm talking about positive experiences here. Obviously, if you have negative experiences, but then negative experiences can be good in their own way, as long as they're not like traumatic experiences. Like I'm not talking about that sort of thing. Yeah, you wanna collect as many of these anecdotes as you can because it's going to be a long life ahead of you, and it's very good to just keep going and seeing what happens because life is a series of events, and all you need to do is go through that series and just see what happens, and something interesting will happen along the way. You know, you'll have dead days, you'll have days where things don't really work out in your favor, you'll have days where nothing of interest happens, you'll have days where you just want to sod it all, you know. But sometimes you'll have a day where, you know, you come back home after a weird night out where you ended up going down this strange rabbit hole with some friends and stuff, or even some, you know, people that you just met recently, and you kind of go and have a bit of fun. Use precaution. Actually, that sounds like you're going off to have a fling. You use your common sense, you know, don't go with some nutcase, but, you know, just say yes to stuff. Have a fun time with life. Go through life open to new experiences, and if you continue to do that, you will grow as a person, and the more you grow as a person, the more able you'll be to tell your story. And the more anecdotes you have, the bigger your library of the past becomes, the more that the guests of the future will be able to read through your tale and be captivated by it. So yeah, I hope that you were able to take something out of that. I hope that was quite useful in some regard. I hope that it made a bit of sense. And sorry for the weird bit where I think I might have to do a jump cut or something, or maybe it just went on for a bit too long with that text-to-speech, because yeah, I did say the real name of the guy by accident. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. and have a great, night. And if that friend has texted you, right, and you've been holding off and saying yes, and you're watching this video while you're putting that off, open that message. Let that guy see that you've seen the message, right, and then start typing, and you'll see your name typing. Like, oh yeah, what's he gonna say? And then say, yes, I'm down. I'm down to do it. I'm down for whatever adventure comes. Thank you so much. You have a good day, yeah? Or night. Just a naturalistic thing to close us out. It says thanks for watching up there. Which, I mean that.